Hey yo, Raider Nation, what is up? Darth Raider here, and I am back. It is my Week 8 preview of the Las Vegas Raiders against the New Orleans Saints. As you guys already know, we're going to go ahead and go through the injuries of the week. We're going to go ahead and get a look at New Orleans. We're going to go ahead and share the keys to the game, and we're going to go ahead and do some predictions. So stay tuned. Let's get it. First and foremost, pay that tab, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It might not be a big deal to you guys, but it is a big deal for me. It gets me out there into that YouTube world, the algorithm, all that kind of stuff. So once again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. As you see here, we have Jonathan Abram, Davante Adams, Deshaun Bauer, Divine Diablo, Matt Collins, Turner, and Darren Waller all questionable for this week. My gut tells me that most of these guys will be playing. I think it's going to be a 50-50 chance with Divine Diablo as he's still healing up from that back and ankle injury. But as we all know, earlier this week, I had mentioned that it looks like there's some kind of bug going around in Las Vegas. And for the most part, I think everyone's going to be ready to go. All right, and taking a look at the New Orleans Saints. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, we got Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Marshon Lattimore. All of these guys are going to be out, so that's great news for the likes of Davante Adams. The rest of these guys are going to be questionable. Adam Trotman, Andres Pete, Paul Samadebo, Juwan Johnson, David Oyemata. All these guys are going to be questionable. I don't know too much of their specifics, to be honest with you, but the good thing that we know is, like I said before, Thomas, Landry, and Lattimore are going to be out. All right, guys, we kept that short and sweet. Let's go ahead and move on with a look at the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are led by Dennis Allen, who took over from Sean Payton. If Dennis Allen does ring a bell, it's because he used to be our coach from 2012 to 2014. When he was with us, he posted an 8-28 record before getting fired after a 0-4 start. I personally like Dennis Allen as a coach. I think he has matured a lot. He's learned a lot, especially from that first stint with us. So I think, whatever he got and he gathered from being a coach with us, I think he's now transferring it over. It just seems that the defense is just not helping him out right now. The Saints right now are sitting in the bottom of the NFC South and be in fourth place at a 2-5 record. A little bit of comparison between both teams. This is per ESPN that I'm popping up right here. They are currently sitting in 8th place as far as passing yards at 256. They're also in 8th place at 142 yards per game. They sit in 7th place for 25 points per game. Their points against, though, is very glaring right now. As you can see, it's 28.6 points per game, sitting in 31st. So very, very similar to us in the sense that their defense isn't as good as what the offense is producing. Now, kind of switching it over to us, we are sitting in 12th as far as passing yards at 238. We're sitting at 11th at 128 yards rushing per game. But our points per game, we're actually third right now at 27.2. Points against, we're averaging about 25 points per game. A couple of people I want to look at is going to be, first and foremost, our quarterback, Andrew Dalton. While we haven't played Andrew Dalton as a Saint, his career-wise against the Raiders is actually 3-0. He hasn't scored any touchdowns against us, but just being in the team and showing that he has been able to manage the games against us and actually beating us is actually telling us a lot. Of course, we have to worry about that running game. Some gadget players as well. For example, Taysom Hill. He's currently listed as a tight end, but as we all know, he can also be a quarterback. He can also be a running back as well. Kind of just all over the place, a jack of all trades. That's one guy that actually kind of scares me a little bit, because if it's one thing about the Raiders and it's one thing about me being a fan, you kind of know that it's one of those things where you don't think that a player is going to make an impact against you, which actually always does against us. And of course, our best offensive player is going to be Alvin Kamara. So Alvin Kamara is a superstar. You guys all know that. Obviously, he's a running back, so he can run the ball really well, but he's a really great pass-catching running back. PFF actually had him second best receiving grade among running backs in week 7. Watch out for those screen plays. Watch out for those, dump offs, those check downs. You got to always keep your eye on Alvin Kamara. Looking at the defense, although I did say that Lattimore is going to be out, we also have to keep in mind that they do have a stud defensive lineman in Cam Jordan. We also have a top 5 linebacker in Demario Davis. And according to PFF, Demario Davis is ranked second among all linebackers. So we have to consistently keep an eye on where he's going to be at all times on the field. It's going to be a big task for the likes of Darren Waller, Horsted, or any kind of wide receiver going down the middle. All right, so we covered the New Orleans Saints a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the keys to the game. So my first key to the game is going to be Davante Adams. Marshon Lattimore is going to be out. I think the New Orleans defense is going to absolutely go all out to try to stop Josh Jacobs. So that being said, Davante Adams needs to go over 120 yards. Definitely a touchdown. I'm hoping he gets at least 2 touchdowns this game. So my second key to the game is going to be Alvin Kamara. This guy can actually wreck the game if you let him. So we all know he's going to be running the ball. We all know he's going to be catching the ball. So it's up to those linebackers, those defensive backs, when they tackle him to make sure that he doesn't get loose and, makes those big gains. And my third and final key to the game is going to be calling out this defensive line, especially these edge rushers. We absolutely need to get pressure on Andy Dalton, get him off of his spot, making sure that he's, off timing with all of the receivers. As you guys saw last week on that Thursday night game against Arizona, he had 2 pick sixes. One of them was absolutely his fault. The second one kind of bounced off of the hands of the receiver. So those defensive ends need to get home. They need to rush that quarterback. They need to get him off of his spot, pressure him, get that timing out of the way. That way we can get some turnovers. So it's prediction time, guys. I am going to go with a Raiders win in the Superdome of 28-25. We talked about this before, how we're usually averaging about 27 points per game while they're averaging about 25 points per game. So I am expecting that to keep true, getting us that third win and setting us up for that Jacksonville Jaguars game next week. All right, guys, that was it for today. I want to go ahead and thank you guys. Once again, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video as well. It definitely helps me out. Like I mentioned before, it might not be a big deal for you guys, but it is a big deal for me. Any kind of like, any kind of subscription gets that algorithm out into YouTube, gets me a little bit more views, helps me grow this channel. As always, Darth Raider is out.